Welcome back. I'm Tedward. Welcome to my 2023 Honda Civic Type R, and welcome to a little weekend road trip. Let's get it started. After a long time driving around in Southern California in some pretty outrageous machines, I gotta say, I'm really comforted to be back in my Honda, but starting up a 4-cylinder instead of a Lamborghini Huracan is a little anticlimactic. But this is the more likely vehicle, I guess, that you'd be buying as a normal person like myself. So first, before we get started, while we warm this up, the car is just filthy. And I'm on my winter setup, despite the fact that it's like 60 degrees out here. And I apologize to Craft Detailing. Like, seriously, I'm being really bad about keeping this car clean this winter, but I also haven't driven it that much. It's just because it's sitting here in the driveway in the filth, in the stink of on and off rainstorms, but it still looks pretty good. And I think the fact that Championship White is a little bit of an eggshell, it's an off-white color in comparison to, say, the Alpine White on BMW, it hides it just a little bit. But, you know, I was gonna go take it to a car wash right now, but I thought, how dumb is it to take your car to a car wash just before going on a road trip? Maybe we'll do it after and I'll really pamper it at Craft Detailing. But we're gonna do this road trip on the Blizzaks. I've got them on my fake TE37s that I bought from Tire Rack, which are very cheap. They're like 190 bucks a wheel. Pretty sweet. And oh man, this is actually worse than I thought. Maybe I do need to go take this to get washed. But anyway, the Civic Type R is like such a killer road trip car because there's so much space for things. Like I'm like one of those people who like lives out of their car. I always have hats and gloves and stuff everywhere. But what I like about this is that unlike some other cars that I've owned, I just throw everything in the hatch. And then it just lives back here until I need to remove it. So the car actually looks reasonably clean. And thankfully, we've got this little guy. So when I park it up in Maine, because that's where we're going today, I don't feel like, you know, if I go in to get a coffee, no one's looking at my stuff. So let's jump in, fuel up, and I'll tell you where we're going. When you're warming up the Type R, this is something I actually prefer over the SI, is that the gearing is shorter, which makes it a little easier to go first through third when the car is actually cold. Now it's 60 degrees right now, so we're not dealing with like frigid Arctic temperatures like we typically would, but just in the sense that you're not like lugging this engine because you're short shifting and oh boy, now we're at like idle in second gear because we didn't want to rev out first. No, that's okay. But we are headed up to Portland, Maine. Portland, Maine is one of my favorite little cities. It's a coastal town. It's not that far from Boston. We've got 145 miles to go, and it has a ton of great food and coffee and walkable streets, and it's kind of affordable. I've actually been considering moving to Portland, Maine myself, despite the fact that all of my clients and the things I typically do are in Boston, but my goodness, Boston is very expensive. But road tripping in the Type R is pretty awesome because it's a fun car to drive. The only qualms I have about it, which will get you on the highway, are mostly road noise related, and it's stiff. But I'm cheating a little bit right now because I'm on the 18-inch wheels on snow tires with a ton of sidewall and big rubbery fingers for tread. So it softens the blow quite a bit. It's not as fuel efficient as my SI, which was getting 42 miles per gallon. Like if I really milked it, I think I could get like 43, 44 miles per gallon on a really slow, let's say 66 mile per hour highway drive. But there's something really incredible about having a car with the performance of the Type R and still being able to eke out about 30 miles per gallon. We'll see what that looks like on our way. But first, I'm gonna go fuel up and then we'll hit the highway. Hard to hate that. You put like 4.5 gallons in this thing and it tops you off. That is incredible. the average person seems to have such a hard time merging onto highways to the point where they are basically suicidal when they do it. It's mind-blowing. They either come to a complete stop or they jump over way too soon. Like, here's my advice. Don't get over yet. Like, you've got all this beautiful room to merge. Use it. Like, run it out. I don't understand why everyone's so eager to be inside oncoming traffic when they're going like half the speed. It's mind-blowing. I guess American schools like just don't teach physics, because if you've ever like walked into a wall at 2 miles an hour, you like break your nose, it hurts, or you stub your toe on something. Don't they know what happens when there's a 40 mile per hour differential between you and a car that slams into you? I guess not. Ooh, this is wonderful. Okay, check out this car this is the saddest thing. Check out this Chevy Cruze with the world's saddest windshield wipers. Just, oh my goodness. That's the most depressing sight like I've ever seen. It's crying for help. It's saying, kill me, put me out of my misery. Oh, what a bummer. So unlike the SI, the Type R is really eager to drive at about 80 miles per hour. I felt like my SI was a lot happier between like 74, 76 miles per hour. That was a little more specific. This car, I find myself speeding in it quite often, which I need to like actually remember to use my cruise control to not speed. And at 78 miles per hour, which is like a reasonable, not outrageous speed that you can cover ground at and probably not get pulled over, I'm still under 3,000 RPM. You don't hit 3,000 RPM until about 80, which is usually a good sweet spot for like a happy engine. Anyway, as a road trip car, it's a little bit loud and you can't fit 5 people in it. Not that you probably want to anyway, because like, you know, it's still not a giant car, but you put 3 adults back there, you'd be sagging that rear end. That poor suspension would be crying for help. It's not an S-Class. But it does encourage me to still go places, and I'm trying not to be too obsessive about my odometer, because I am the type of person who, when I buy a car, I'm like, I'm going to drive. I'm going to just do everything in it. I'm not even going to think. If I want to go somewhere, I'm going. And then I get the car and I drive it daily and I realize like, man, I'm stacking up a lot of miles. Maybe I should hold off. Maybe I shouldn't go as many places. Maybe I shouldn't use it as much. Screw it. I could get hit by a bus tomorrow walking across the street. I want to use my cars. I want to enjoy my cars, and I want to go places that I want to go, and I can afford to go to those places because like gas isn't that crazy expensive. I've got a decent job doing YouTube. I'm going to start like living a little bit. And I know that's not like, oh, I just spit everywhere. That's disgusting. But I'm lucky that my sister, who is a very successful cardiologist, lives in a really cool city that's fun to visit, and it's only like 2.5 hours away. So let's get a little further upstream because it's really boring for a very long time. And then we'll talk about the delights of just going on day trips. And please, 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 these left lane hogs, at least you sort of get it, but like, what are you doing? Why? Why have you chosen this lane? It's not for you. This is the bridge into Maine, crossing over from New Hampshire into Maine. And it's not like the most extravagant bridge, but it's enough of a marker that makes you feel like you've gone somewhere. The unfortunate thing is that when you look out over that side, it's just like depressing. It's all just cranes and industrial stuff. But it is nice to have some sort of physical marker on a road trip that makes you feel like you've accomplished something and gone somewhere. Because I was on a road trip with Chris Amos and Charlie and Brower and all these guys around Michigan, and Michigan is just flat the entire way. Like, it is alarmingly boring that when you've driven for hours and hours and hours on end, there is no mountain. There is no like stream. There's just a lake the whole way around. Cool, Audi, we dig that. And out here, at least when you travel, you see something. You have a topography change. I kind of love driving alone when I don't have anyone with me. I don't have to be anywhere at a particular time because it means that I can just take my time, go to rest stops. And normally I'm in that like cannonballer mindset where if Waze tells me it's going to take this long, I want to get there really, really fast. I don't care. And I'm trying to take more time to enjoy things and like stop at the places that I should be stopping rather than just making the destination the point. So real quick, let's just take a quick check at this. Look, 31.8 miles per gallon over the last like probably 100 something miles. So we're getting like 32 mpg. That's pretty sweet. Thank you, rear camera. Oh yeah, Lincoln Town Car, baby. That's luxury, that's living. It's kind of fun to have a Civic that's this fast. Speed limits in Maine, 70 miles an hour. Pretty nice. I don't think that means you can just comfortably go 20 over though. They'll probably still nail you. So here's something I've not experienced yet in this car. Now, Honda has a great feature, which is like this lane keep assist, except it's really windy right now. And the car, look at this. If there was a cop behind me, I'd probably get pulled over and they'd probably breathalyze me. It stabilizes, but like on a windy day, it's oscillating quite a bit. It's doing its best to try to hold the lane, but I mean, look at that. That's not great. I mean, I guess I shouldn't expect that the car can like handle wind like that, but that's something to really take into account when we think about the future of self-driving cars, is that environmental factors such as wind are going to play a real role in the safety and stability of these cars, because if the car is just reacting to a push of wind, like if I feel a big strong gust, like I can push into the gust, right? What's the car doing? The car's doing it in a weird way where it's like it's behind the curve just a little bit, and then it doesn't know to continue compensating, so it says, oh, I'm over here, and then you end up in this sort of sinusoidal accelerating wave of doom, and that's not what you want. But look, I'm not like panning the system. I'm just saying, like, this is an interesting case where I had not really thought about what this would be like in the wind, and when I'm using it, it's a little unstable. Okay, I think this is the more scenic way to go in. Now I've officially completely confused Waze. Now Waze, I've said this before, Waze often gets very jumbled and confused. And so far, it's done a pretty good job of not being too confused. Now, when it does jumble, you just hit home and then go back to Apple CarPlay. Sorry, I'm always flipping you off, or whoever. I do a lot with my middle finger on these touch screens, and you're right, I do. I am not angry. It's just a habit. I'm not using my index finger. I'm using my middle finger. But Apple CarPlay, everything typically works pretty seamlessly. In this drive, I've actually, on the rare occasion, I've just been using the wireless charging, and that means I'm using wireless CarPlay. Now, a regular Civic has wireless CarPlay, but not wireless charging, or at least the SI, the higher trim levels like the Touring and such. Very yellow WRX. Man, I'm just the most distracted person in the world. Portland's weird because when you enter it from this side, it looks really industrial. All you're seeing is shipping containers and cranes and things, because it is a port city, unsurprisingly. They're bringing goods and things off of these boats, and there's tons of cruise ships that come in up near the promenade as well. But as we get further into the city, it's like this weird little tourist place. And that's the thing, is because there's all these tourists that come in off the cruise ships, there really is a lot to do here. And it's not just dumb little tchotchkes. Like Cape Cod kind of drives me nuts, because when you go down the Cape, you'd be driving on 6A, and all you see are these dumb stores selling inflatable things, and they just want you to like buy dumb things. World's best lobster roll. It's like, nah, that ain't Portland. Portland actually has some like cool culture, real art, and Also, if you come here to see like a show or a comedy show, you can get really intimate rooms. Whereas like if you're in Boston or New York or whatever, you're not going to get that intimate experience with like your favorite band or your favorite comedian. I went and saw Eugene Merman here, and there was probably 30 people in the room. And I'm like, how crazy is it that I'm sitting here with one of my favorite comedians and it's just us? It's like hanging out at a house party. Portland is sinking, unfortunately, or at least the sea level rise is impacting it pretty significantly, because there are, these buildings go basically out into the ocean, and during high tide in certain seasons, those roads just flood with seawater. And you don't want to be like the guy with the P1 that ended up underwater in that hurricane, but like that's the sad reality of a lot of these things. But something very special about Maine is the license plate culture, because the vanity plates in Maine are not censored, which means you can write anything, which leads me to one of my favorite Instagrams, Vanity Plates of Maine. I'll put it there if I said it incorrectly. I mean, people write literally, when I say literally anything, I mean literally anything. Anything that your dirty mind decides needs to be displayed to the world on your license plate, it goes. Great accord. But there's also a bit of old money in Maine. There's like these weird little coastal towns where it's very waspy. It's like the Gilmore Girls. And that's where you get some of these wild old Mercedes and things that are just in immaculate condition. It's like 100-year-old lady driving around. She can only function after 3 martinis. And the cars just stay, and it's fantastic. And then they've got this funky little narrow gauge railroad, which is super fun. And people take it. They go up, and it's right along the coast. You can go, see the sights, and that's the deal. So let's go find some coffee. I could use a coffee. And here we are with a coveted front parking spot at my favorite coffee shop in Portland, Coffee by Design. I did not film getting here because it's just traffic and boring. But thank you guys so much for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing, supporting the Patreon, supporting me. I think this Civic Type R makes a great little road tripper, and I think as your all-arounder, a daily driver, a sports car, and I can't wait to really use it on racetracks this spring and summer. It just does all of the things so well. There's compromises. I don't have a screaming V8 with rear-wheel drive. That's a bummer, but you know what? I don't miss it because this car delivers on so many other levels, and not every car can be everything. Don't forget to respect the drive, and I'll see you in the next one. All right, so new rule, every time we go on a road trip, we have to end it at Craft Detailing. Right now I'm in Dedham. They've got another office up in Woburn at Garage 42, but look at this. This is disgusting. Luckily, this is all clear broad. This has PPF on it. This does not, and somehow these birds still manage to attack the side of my car. Oh, this is so gross. I'm almost embarrassed to show it to them. But I love a good raunchy before and after. So let's jump over there and see what they can do to clean this up, because my Type R, she's not looking good.